I think that's nearly everyone joined now, Tim.
Good stuff. I'll get going then. Can you see my screen, Guy?
Yes.
Good stuff. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our consolidation and multi-entity accounting webinar. We've got quite a few people on the line, so really good to have you on. Cheers. So for today's webinar, first of all, just a couple of introductions. So my name is Tim. I'm one of the senior business development managers here at iplicit, working with a whole range of industries, and historically have also worked in a number of other finance system providers, also working across multiple industries. So a lot of kind of experience working with group companies. And with me this morning is Guy.
Morning all, my name's Guy. I'm one of the solution consultants at iplicit, so I'll be taking you through the software once Tim's come through the problems about group accounting and consolidations and how we can solve them.
Brilliant. And in terms of the agenda for this morning, so we're going to start off by just understanding and discussing the typical challenges that are faced by group companies. We're then going to go and talk a little bit about the things that you should consider when you're looking at a new system, and what's kind of look out for in that space. And then we'll hand over to Guy to show you the software and really show how iplicit can help. But before we move on to that, just a little bit of housekeeping from Guy.
Yeah, so you find on the GoToWebinar panel over on the right-hand side of your screen, or it depends on where you've positioned it on your screen. And we put some handouts and some case studies that you can get access to. We'll also be sending you later on links to the recording of the webinar as well, should you want to re-watch it, if it was that exciting, or you wanted to share it with colleagues. And there's a chat or questions area in the panel as well. So if you do have questions as we run through, feel free to type them into the chat or the questions area, and we'll do our best as we go through to answer those. But we will finish the webinar at the very end. We'll be hanging around for a Q&A session as well. So if you've got time, after 10:30, we'll be going through any of the questions that we haven't answered during the session after then. And we did think just a bit of an engagement to get you all started, obviously because the sessions on multi-companies and groups, we would like you to put into the chat window, if you feel like it, how many companies or legal entities do you have to manage at the moment? Is it just a couple? Is it 10? My record was 117, and that was a spreadsheet from hell. But that was before I knew about iplicit. So if you want to put that into the questions area in chat, that'd be just a nice topic to start us on. It would just be interesting. We've got some coming through. 3, 5. This is just going to be me shouting out numbers, isn't it now?
Sounds like some game show.
It does a bit, doesn't it? Yeah. That's great. Thank you for that. No one's beat 117 yet, though. So I'm not saying I'll win, but I'll carry on, Tim.
Good stuff. Well, as I said, to start off with, we really wanted to kind of overview the landscape that that sits around the kind of topic of consolidation. And given that you have all joined us today, I'm kind of guessing that many, if not all of you, are experiencing some of the challenges that we have here on the left-hand side. So we work with group companies all the time, and we regularly work with companies that have multiple systems, maybe across multiple geographies, maybe all within the UK. But that leads to quite often a massive, great big spreadsheet, which obviously takes a huge amount of time. It's very error prone. We all know that one formula is wrong and it becomes an absolute nightmare. Leads to a lot of manual processes in terms of transacting between different companies and all that sort of stuff. It leads to a lot of lack of flexibility from a reporting perspective, and obviously any reporting that you're doing in Excel is obviously inherently not real time. So a huge number of challenges that come around from the use of maybe smaller systems or legacy finance systems that we come across a lot, whether that's Xero, QuickBooks, or some of the legacy systems that are out there in the market. And traditionally, the solution to that was to go and get a big enterprise solution. So that whether that be a big ERP, a big enterprise ERP, or whether that be an expensive layer to stick over the top of all of your current systems, whether that be Hyperion or something like that, back in the day. And these obviously come with them a huge amount of cost, whether that be the annual cost or the cost of implementing, as well as the time frame that it takes to implement those systems. But it also comes with a lot of both process and technological complexity. So typically you end up needing some sort of system admin to run those sort of systems. It just involves a whole load of work that you don't necessarily want within the business. Certainly not scalable for growing businesses as well. So this is where iplicit sits, right in the middle. So what we believe we offer the market is a simple and affordable solution, so providing all the functionality you need at a price point and a complexity level that makes sense for a business of your size, whilst maintaining the power of those kind of traditional enterprise level systems and ensuring that the system is intuitive, so that moving forward as a 21st century cloud system, we offer that intuitive nature that you'd expect. So when you're sitting there considering what your options are and what to look for when you're looking at a new system as a group company, we believe there are a number of things that you should be considering. And we've put some of these on this slide here, but I'm sure there's more as well. Firstly, is the system a single database? So is all your whole group sitting on one database, or is it all various different databases across the group? Is it multi-currency compatible? That might not be applicable to everyone on the call, but I'm sure there are some people on the call that are working across multiple countries, across multiple regions, maybe some in Europe or the US, and you're consolidating across multiple currencies. Does the system automate many of those kind of month-end processes that typically associated with consolidation and the likes? We'll cover some of those in the demo a little bit later. You have to log in and out of different entities. Is it one single login, or is it multiple logins across the group? Does the system centralize your chart of account structure, your suppliers, your customers, your purchase and sales ledger, or are you having to maintain multiple chart of accounts across multiple different entities? Does the system offer you unlimited flexibility in terms of reporting? So are you able to analyze things across multiple dimensions, or is there a limitation there? Is the consolidation real time, right down to transactional level? Are you seeing up-to-date data at all times? Is it easy to set up complex intercompany processes within that platform? And finally, are you able to budget at group and subsidiary level? All of these things are really important to consider when you're looking at a new system to cover your whole group. And all this leads on to some of the advantages of a unified platform that would provide all of the things in the slide before. So that would be the ability to automate your intercompany postings, whether that is automating the purchase invoice off the back of raising an intercompany sales invoice, or whether that's allocating costs from a purchase within one entity across the various other entities in your group. It gives you a single source of truth, so you're not having separate source of truth across your group, that single source of truth at a consolidated level. It's going to automate a lot of those month-end processes that are kind of attributed to consolidation, whether that be kind of calculating those FX gains and losses, or maybe calculating those elimination transactions at the end of the month. And finally, allowing you to report in real time across unlimited dimensions, meaning that you can get access to that data that you need when you need it, and it's always going to be up to date. And we see that this is the sort of functionality that makes a huge difference to our customers, and we've taken a couple of quotes out of our case studies off our website, and all of these are accessible, and I know some of them are in the handout today. But just wanted to kind of pull out some of the benefits that we see from a unified platform such as iplicit. We've got on the top left there Graham, who is from the Business Human Rights Resource Centre, just pulling out the fact that iplicit allows him to have a system for the whole organisation, not creating any silos across the business. We've got Sarah Smith there from A1 Insurance Group. We actually have a really good video on our website with A1 Insurance Group, which I'd highly recommend you watching. But they found that the functionality that iplicit had to offer from a consolidation perspective was truly business changing for them and reduced the amount of work they were having to do on a month-to-month basis exponentially. And finally, down the bottom there, we've got Mark from Grand Fit of Blackpool, who just essentially pulled out the idea that because he's not having to log in and out of various different entities, he's able to view data all in one place, all at one time. It makes the whole experience of consolidation a whole load easier for him and his team. So without further ado, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight into what Guy's going to go into. But I'll hand over to Guy, and Guy can run you through exactly how iplicit can help you with some of these challenges. You can see your screen there, Guy. I think you might be on mute, Guy.
I swear I untick that. So we developed iplicit right from the very beginning with the idea of it being a multi-entity system. So to begin with, we built it for the cloud as well. So you access iplicit from a browser. Well, that's all you need, nothing to install. As long as you've got a browser on any device, you just go to the iplicit web page, click on login, and then log into your organization. And that includes, or we include from a security point of view, things like multi-factor authentication, Active Directory integration, and we comply with all of the different security standards. So we're very rigid and secure on security. And once you've logged into the system, the idea is you've got this finance system, you want it available to not just the finance team, to anyone in the organization across all the different entities that you've got within the organization, but we want to present people, the right people with the right pieces of information. That can be graphically represented as in these charts and stuff like that that I've got on here. And these can be sitting across the different entities that I've got. We've got the ability to drill down into information. We've got the ability to take any of that information, put it into PDF files, download it into Excel spreadsheets, but I might want to look at the budgeting that I've got for my particular area. I might want to see how I'm doing in a live real-time basis. I might be responsible for projects, see how we're doing for my projects, that type of thing. So we can present that sort of information with the ability to drill down that I'll cover off later on. So it's all about giving people the right access to the right pieces of information, and the security that we've built around iplicit is deep in terms of functional security and what people can do within the software, but also around those important pieces of data. And the data, as far as we're concerned from a security point of view, could be the entities that I'm responsible for, the organizations, the companies that I get access to, all the way down to the cost centers, the departments, the projects that I need access to as well. So we ring fence that information to only view and only share the information with the right people at the right point in time. But our starting point, so if you think of the way we built iplicit as sort of Lego blocks, so starting Lego blocks were all about those legal entities, the organizations that you want within your single, what we call an iplicit environment. And then within your iplicit environment, you can set up as many legal entities as you want. Do you want to set up a new legal entity? I just need to give it a code, give it a name, choose the country, because we've got multi-currency in the system as well, multi-currency handling, and also different tax authorities, different registration details, even different year ends and consolidations that I'll cover off later on. But behind an organization, we can also say if this organization is part of a group, then I can also determine from a trading point of view, does that company trade? Does company A trade with company B, C, D, E, F within the organization? And what do they trade as well? So we thought we've got all of these companies in the one system. Then what happens? What's next? Well, the next thing is there might be transactions that go between the two systems, but we thought rather than having to post transactions twice, can't we automate that in some way, shape or form? So the next thing, the next building block that we worked on was our automations. And our automations don't just affect intercompany transactions or group transactions. What we're trying to do with our automation center is take all of those, whether it's a month-end process, whether it's a day-to-day process, whether it's a process that takes the finance team an innate amount of time to do. So anything from working out what your accruals are, or prepayments at month end, working out deferred income, automating those intercompany transactions as well, whether it's a journal, whether it's a sales transaction, whether it's multi-company VAT. Our automation center allows you, or puts you in control of how iplicit will deal with those transactions, but without us having to bespoke any software. This is all part of one system. All of our iplicit customers use the same system, and you get the functionality and advantages across all of our customers as we add enhancements into the software. We update the software on a monthly basis, so you can take advantage of all the new ideas, the new compliance areas that we need to deal with, and the growing functionality that we keep adding into iplicit. And we want you to put you in control of that. So automations is an ever-evolving aspect of iplicit and whether or not it's working out some foreign exchange gains and losses automatically, whether it's tidying up penny differences on sales and purchase ledgers, all configurable by you and in your control to determine how you want the system to automate those predominantly manual tasks in historic financial systems. So once we've got those automations, what does that actually mean? So if I was creating a sales invoice, it was creating an intercompany sales invoice, which I have one here. So iplicit knows I'm in company A. It says, well, you can sell to these particular companies depending on how those intercompany transactions have been set up. I'm just going to quickly go and shape this to a sales account, stick some values in there, put a description in because that's mandatory, and then submit that. iplicit says, thanks very much, got that sales invoice for you. That might go through an approval process if you needed it to. And once it's processed that transaction, iplicit will then do, if I be a bit more patient, not one of my virtues. What iplicit will then do, I'm going into the wrong transaction. What iplicit will then do is not only does it create the sales invoice in company A, what it's also done is it's created the purchase invoice in company B, or C, D, E, F, and G, if I wanted it to. And because I've got workflows, because we put workflows across the entirety of iplicit, whether it's transactional based, whether it's journals, whether it's approving a budget, all of those authorizations can go through our workflows. So that's pushed it into company, into the other company's ledger. But what it's also done is it's pushed that through the workflow in that company as well. So I don't get any unexpected transactions coming into my finance bit of the system if I'm the MD of that particular entity, and I can go through and approve that particular transaction as well. So automations is really key to us. As is one of the other common areas for organizations that have got multi-companies is some of those companies might be abroad or might be overseas. So we've got full multi-currency in the system. So for the ability for iplicit on a transactional basis to hold the different currencies based on those different transactions, hold the exchange rate. So I know the originating currency. I also know all of the base currencies for that particular entity. And with the ability to iplicit through those automations to be able to automate gains and losses and foreign exchange differences when we're paying those transactions, or conversely, if it's on the sales ledger side of things, when we're receipting those invoices, iplicit can suck up, and rather than someone having to go through and eliminate all of those different foreign currency gains and losses, iplicit can do all of that for you. Just again, we're just trying to sort of dig away at all those different menial tasks that the finance team have to get involved with, so that they can spend more time on more value-added services. Because we're part of a group, we might also have to do with group VAT returns. And the way that iplicit manages that, again, because we're one system, one entity, when I'm looking at my breakdown, that breakdown of that VAT over those different quarters might be by the different entities that I've got within the organisation. And so iplicit will consolidate that up for the group VAT returns. And then when I submit the VAT return, automatically through to HMRC. So here's one I prepared earlier. Not only will it submit it to HMRC through the MTD portal, iplicit will also go through and post all of the intercompany transactions from the group account through into the subsidiary accounts and do all those contras for me and push it through the loan accounts automatically. We can also do automations around things like group payments, do group payment runs, so pay company A and pay supplier out of company A, but pay subsidiary purchase ledger accounts. And then iplicit will, as part of those automatic intercompany postings, push all of that information through, create the receipts or payments in the other subsidiary purchase ledgers and match those off against the invoices as well. And because I've got all of that information in one place, as Tim mentioned, what I can then do is look at consolidated views of information. So if I was in my sales ledger, I could be looking at all of my customers, but I might want to view those customers if you've got customers or suppliers across the organisation and see that information by supplier, but across the companies, across the organisations that I've got. So I can see aged debtors and creditors by entity type. And then the natural progression from that means that we can do things centrally. So I only need to set up a supplier once. I only need to set up a customer once. If we're servicing a supplier, those different difficult contract negotiations when it comes down to that time of year. I could be viewing the total exposure that we've got to that supplier across the group. I could do the same for debtors, same for creditors. It also means I can centralize some of my processes as well, whether it's AP or AR, whether it's credit control, for example, using the inbuilt credit control systems within iplicit. I could be managing debtors across the organization. And again, we've added automation into credit control as well. So we've got things like reminder letters, gets iplicit to send those out for you, to create your own communications, we call them. To be able to centrally hold that information as well also means that sales teams can have access to information that the credit control team's working on, and vice versa as well, whether it's notes, reminders, customers on hold, that type of thing. But again, part of the automation and being able to centrally manage that should take a lot of manual time away from the finance team. And the pinnacle, I suppose, in a way, of having all that information in one place, especially from a group point of view, means that then I can look at my finances across the organisation or for individual parts of the organisation. I can look at information across multiple years. I can drill into that information. I could drill down into different sorts of transactions. There might be certain sorts of transactions I want to take a look at. I might want to be searching for information, and with the ability to drill down into that information. So in this case, I want to go and have a look at that particular entry. And this is part of another automation tool that we've got that works across all of the entities that I've got within iplicit, and the ability to manage deferred income. So this deferred income release journal was actually created from this deferred income sales transaction. So all someone has done is posted a sales transaction into iplicit, and iplicit's deferred income automation has managed that whole process across the life of that particular, the release of that information even across the life of that particular transaction type. So we've got the deferred income automation as well. I might want to look at my P&Ls, balance sheets, intercompany consolidations, that type of thing at an entity level. So because we are all of my transactions are in one place, it means that iplicit gives me a real-time consolidated view at any point in time across the organisation. That might be across the different companies of the organisation. I might want to look at that for different aspects though. I might want to look at that by cost centre. I might want to look at that by department. Because iplicit has an unlimited amount of analysis dimensions to your nominal ledger, to your chart of accounts, it means that I can get the granularity for the different companies that I've got within the group, but also get views of that information across the organisation as well, not just on an entity by entity basis, all in real time, all at my fingertips and accessible from any device as well, which includes our mobile apps that are available for iOS and Android devices as well. Going back to that multi-currency scenario though, if I've got currencies within the organisation, companies within the organisation, just checking on time, I've got 4 minutes left. I've got companies across the organisation in those different currencies. I might want to look at everything from a currency point of view. I want to look at it on my base currency, so I can see everything translated through, into this case, into GBP. And then I've got my consolidated areas over on the right-hand side. I might want to change that and say, actually, I want to look at everything in euros. I might want to go back and change the rate type. I might want to go back and drill into the transaction. So that accessibility and that drill down means you've got granular information at any point in time across the entire system. We might be running projects across different entities. So if you've got a project that works across different companies, I can post to that project because that's just another dimension of my analysis. I've got all of that project information across the group as well. As you've seen, we've got lots of inquiry screens, we've got lots of pretty graphs and charts, but this is a bit of technology that I don't know if you're aware of, called, it's from a company called Microsoft, that's probably one to watch. It's something called Excel. It's quite handy, apparently. So what we've decided to do, we built something for Excel, and we built a button, which doesn't sound that impressive. But what that button allows me to do is from Excel to log into iplicit. And then rather than exporting the data from my finance system, that means that I can write real-time queries from Excel or functions from Excel to pull the information directly from my finance system. So I can create the most diverse spreadsheets that I want. And if I'd logged in properly, which did work well when I was practicing this earlier, that gives me real-time information if Excel hadn't timed out because of our security measures that I forgot to take account of. So I'll come back onto that. If you want to see it, I'll show it in the Q&A session at the end because I've run out of time. Apart from that, we've got accessibility, full APIs to link to Power BI or and your other business systems as well. But that's enough from me. So I'm going to hand back to Tim to conclude the session.
Brilliant. Cheers, Guy. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, that's coming through.
Good stuff. Absolutely. So we just wanted to summarize a little bit of what you've seen there, because I know Guy's gone through a hell of a lot in that short space of time. So realistically, where we see the advantages, the primary advantages for iplicit for group companies in particular, is that unlimited geo-analysis, those inquiries that allow you to pivot the data based on various different dimensions. The fact that it's a multi-company system all in one environment, so that unified platform that provides the unified view across the whole business. Integrations and APIs to get other business systems across the organization to pull that data into your finance system, give you that single source of truth. Automations across the whole business. I know Guys touched a whole load of different automations that we have available, but there's a lot more we can do with that as well. The ability to have workflows and approvals are incredibly intuitive as well. And we'd be more than happy to show you more of that in a follow-up session from today. And finally, our ability to handle multiple currencies, which again, Guy touched on as well. And because of this, we work with a whole range of companies across a whole range of sectors, some of which we put on screen here. And I'm sure there's some names that everybody recognizes, regardless of what sector you're currently in. But it's that one of the big reasons why we work so closely with particularly group companies is that consolidation functionality that you've seen today. So we wanted to finish the session with a Q&A, and please put any questions you have into the question portal, and we'd be more than happy to answer anything from there. So we have one in at the moment. Let me just get that up. So, Guy, I suppose maybe one for yourself. What's the limit of the number of entities that you can have on iplicit?
We don't have any limits on the number of entities. So you can have as many organizations within iplicit, as many of those legal entities as you want. So you can also, if it's helpful, you can also have different what we call consolidation periods as well. So if you've got different groups, I can even have different groups set up. So these companies form part of this group and have this consolidation. These form part of this group, have these consolidations. And we can bring in non-iplicit entities in there if you want to as well. So
cool. And another one, this is one that we get asked all the time. What happens if for whatever reason one of my subsidiaries or a couple of my subsidiaries have to sit outside of my core finance system? Maybe it's a localized requirement, or maybe it's an acquisition that's keeping their current system or something like that.
So we've got localizations, we've got different tax authorities, that type of thing as well. So we can produce VAT returns or tax returns or GST returns in different for different associations. Also, what I didn't show you, if I'll quickly share my screen. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got, against our legal entities, we have the different tax authorities. So we can set up GBP, but we can also set up tax authorities in any locality to be able to produce the right returns, collect the right information. But then on your P&Ls, balance sheets, all your reporting areas, what we've also got the ability to do, we have what we call account packs. So you might have a standard chart of accounts layout for your UK entity, for example. but I might want to see that in a different format. I might want to see that a US GAAP version of that. I might want to see my French chart of accounts. So you can have all of that information in different languages, different locations, different groupings and things like that to suit the different statutory requirements that you've got across the group as well. So all without having to resort to exporting data to Excel and formatting it in different ways, shapes and forms as well. So,
and it's worth saying in terms of directly answering that question as well, if you do have, despite all of that, we do come across some instances where there's a particular need for a subsidiary to sit outside of kind of iplicit, and that's absolutely something we can facilitate, and we're really used to working with as well. And there's a few different approaches we can take to that. So
yeah, we could also consolidate different joint ventures and things like that at different rates and things as well, if you wanted to.
One last question, I think. Just conscious of the time, Guy. If I'm, bear with me. It'd be helpful if I could get my little tab up. So I'll tell you what, two more, because I need to read one of them. It's a little bit longer. So whilst I'm reading this one, how do FX rates get updated in the system? Is that real time, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's real time. We have different currency feeds in from Fixer or XE. So you can bring in whatever exchange rates you want. They get updated usually, but as part of our automation, again, we'll pull in those usually overnight. So if I was looking at a particular rate, and we'll have all of the rates that are being pulled in live in, well, not live in real time, but overnight. And that includes things like some of the feeds they bring in cryptocurrencies as well. Should you dabble in a bit of Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that as well? So we're just preparing for the future
Come across it
takeovers.
more and more, aren't we?
We are actually, in seriousness, yeah, we are.
So
it's relevant.
Got a question here, and hopefully when I summarize this, the asker of this question, hopefully I've got this right for you. If not, we'll definitely follow this up anyway. But I think the question essentially is, when you're raising, say, a sales invoice in company A, and that's pulling through into a purchase invoice in company B, how do you make sure that that's going to the right place in company B? Do company A have oversight of company B's chart account structure, or how does that work? What's the technicalities there?
So we have a central chart of accounts, then we have those automations are built into the automations. I say you build into the automations the different mappings for those companies, so it knows that this sales account in company A becomes this purchase account in company B, this cost center becomes this, that type of thing. This currency even becomes if I've got a euro, a GBP, and a euro entity, create a sales invoice in company A as a GBP one, and then it creates a purchase invoice in company B against the right nominal counts and against the different coding mappings that are required. But it will create that euro account in company B. And again, in terms of awareness, it can also then, when it creates the purchase invoice, push that into an authorization chain for company B as well. So we're not just posting free willy into everyone's chart of accounts as well. So we are quite secure.
It looks like I summarized that question quite well. So thank you,
I hope I
Guy.
explained it
One
well
last one. How do we handle bulk payments? So when you're buying on behalf of the group from one particular subsidiary, how do we handle that? And I think that's probably a good place to finish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So as part of our payment runs, so we can obviously do normal payment runs to do bulk payments across an entity, but we also have something called really catchy intercompany bulk payments. And what that is if I'm paying out of company A, I want to look across the purchase ledger, maybe across the entire group. I could pay different suppliers and the different invoices. It will suck up all the different invoices for the suppliers from the different subsidiary ledgers. I can pay that out of company A. When that payment gets processed and approved through iplicit's workflow, the payment will go out of company A's bank, but then iplicit will carry all of my intercompany transactions through the subsidiary ledger, purchase ledgers. And I forgot one of the best bits about our entire system is the fact that because iplicit knows all of these transactions are intercompany transactions, that means that when I'm looking at my balance sheets, P&L accounts, whatever it is, this is really remiss of me, then when I'm looking at those reports, because iplicit understands all of those intercompany transactions, it understands which transactions and which accounts are elimination accounts, so that in real time, I can say, actually, I want to see all of my eliminations, or I want to hide all of my eliminations. So iplicit will go through and take all of those out as well as giving you some really nice intercompany reconciliation screens if you're into that sort of thing as well. So I can see all of that as well to make sure it all balances out, if mine doesn't.
So much to talk about on the topic. And on that point, let me just grab the screen one last time, Guy. For those that, and I appreciate if I've overrun a little bit, and I know people have had to drop, but for those left on the call, we'd be more than happy. We'll obviously follow up anyway. Please expect us to just reach out and make sure we've answered any questions, and if there's anything else we can help with. But in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. These slides will be sent over to you. So either pop me an email, give me a ring. Always happy to discuss anything to do with consolidation or any other requirements you might have. But we've also got a link on there to go to our website if you'd like to see a much more in-depth demo. We'd be more than happy to show you around the system in a lot more detail and yeah, answer any specific questions that you've got. But all that being said, we really appreciate your time this morning, and I appreciate we've also run over a little bit. So thank you for those that have stayed. And yeah, hope that's been valuable to everyone, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one. Bye.